Okay, let us begin. Um, so, well, a few things. First of all, let me map out this course for you as much information as I know. Next week, we're joined by Don Oakley, and he's going to give a talk on the power of silence. Um, so, yeah, that feels really significant. He's somebody that's been very significant in my life. And Joan lives very close to where he lives. They're neighbors in a kind of a way. Um, and yeah, um, when I was staying over there as an intern, I wasn't exactly sure about the direction I was going to go in. And he, his advice was for me to follow what I love. And at the time, uh, my mind was going one direction, and what I loved wasn't so much in the foreground. And that was just a really kind of instructive piece of advice. And so, being in the silence that their center offers, it was a really musically rich time for me. Um, you know, I kind of, when I went there, I was convinced that I wasn't going to sing. And the first thing I did when I got there was sing in my cabin. And, you know, when all's said and done, you know, that urge just to sing, I don't really know what that is, but I've definitely experienced it. And it seems from listening to all of you that there's been that experience. I mean, I don't think you sign up for a singing course if there isn't an urge to sing. And so that genuine and natural urge, it can get so, um, I don't know, it can kind of, its direction can become quite strange and maybe unclear when we get some comments that we can't sing very well, or we feel like that, or we believe something, or we compare our age to somebody else, and or I'm sure it could go the other way too. But what we're just talking about is that urge to communicate um, and to sing. And I think it's really where silence can be thought of as quite powerful, is that silence kind of cuts all of that other stuff away. You know, when we um, when we step back from what other people are saying about our voice, or even how we've related to a song for a while, I mean, it can get quite tiresome, or we can get quite saturated from it. And so, just allowing ourselves time to rest and maybe do something completely different is really powerful. That's why when Harry said he hasn't been singing for a month, I felt great, because it's not like we have control of that urge. You know, it's not like I have tried, trust me. I'll wake up at 9, I'll sing for 2 hours, I'll take a break, then I'll do some research in languages for 2 hours and I'll learn. That does not work. Maybe for some people it does, but I have tried and tried. And now when my mind starts doing that, I'm like, okay, that's potentially dangerous, that I might start believing that if I do this, and that, it's like controlling that urge. And it may be true in your experience that sometimes when we've expressed ourselves in the most free and the most creative way, it's when it's kind of just happened, um, or when it's been most spontaneous. And that might be going for a walk in nature, it might be singing in the shower, whatever it may be. And it's worth saying at this point that as we develop with our singing and want to take it more seriously, then the game slightly changes in a bit, where we want to make the best sound that we can make. And so that takes us down different directions. Is our tuning okay? Are we making the most embodied sound that we can be making? Um, are we singing songs that we love? Um, uh, or are we accessing our potential? Whatever that may be, or however that might want to take shape. And so, in a sense, opening the door to silence is kind of opening the door to not being in control of all of that. It's like, I'm going to do my part, and if I've got a performance, I'm going to learn my material and all that. But that has a different feeling. I like to think that's being responsible. Um, that's very different to taking control, where you're trying to gear stick your way through. And so that's like the broad sense that I might say the relationship between, you could say, singing and silence. We can have this really natural urge that comes seemingly from nowhere, this real desire to sing and to express ourselves. You could even say that it comes from silence and then it kind of comes forward. And then there's how we might feel about our singing and all of that. And it seems like there's a way when we're open to silence that it can be inspirational and it can inform us. And what I mean by that, when we're doing something just for the sake of doing it, not, it's like entering a music competition maybe because we just want to do that. Not necessarily because we want to win it or we want to look better than that, but we just want the performance opportunity. Of course, that doesn't negate that we want to do our best, but it's like what we're bringing to it is really of deep importance. And it just seems that, well, I just love the kind of the simpleness of silence, and how that kind of, it detaches almost us from what we're doing. There can just be that free expression. And that then brings us into actually the intimate relationship that silence has with singing. And I mentioned I was able to talk a little. It's a really kind of tricky topic to talk about. But, when we sing, when I was thinking about how to talk about the last course, Singing with Sincerity, I really tried to really pay attention to the experience of actually producing sound. And if it may be the case also for you that when we're in that actual full engagement of the sound we're making, we're not judging it, we're just communicating. There's a type of a way where our inner resource is silent. We're making sound. It's quite paradoxical to put in language, but if we're fully committed to what we're doing, and that mightn't always be possible. Sometimes we might be self-conscious about the song. We might know it well enough and all of that. But in those moments when we're able to fully commit to what we're doing, it seems like there is a silence there that, we're kind of at one with what we're doing. Don might talk about this. I've heard him before about like the dancer and dancing. Like I think there's it's not the three, but that type of thing. But they're actually all one. You can't actually separate them. And so in our mind, of course, we can. Well, there's the dance, or there's the song, there's the singer, and there's the singing. but actually all of those aspects, uh, all are interdependent on each other. And it's kind of interesting because when we fully commit ourselves to the singing and to the song, it may be true for you that there is an experience of silence that takes center stage because there's no mental gymnastics of you being a good singer or a bad singer. You're just completely consumed with what you're doing.
Can I say something here? Yes.
Sure.
I have found recently, maybe just since this lockup thing, that I actually hum all the time. And I don't like humming.
Mm-hmm.
And I try really hard to stop it. And when I stop, I think, oh, silence is so lovely. So, because it's not singing, I'm just humming, And when I make a really good effort to stop it, I thoroughly enjoy the silence. Oh, I don't know if anyone else feels that.
Thank you for sharing that because it brings an important point. For me, this course is really about personal exploration for yourselves between these two areas, singing and silence. Um, and we have Dawn coming in to give a talk on silence, and I'd like to propose something we'll do after his talk in a moment. Um, and then we have Sarah Dillon come, who'll give a talk. Um, uh, she just said to me, "What would you like to talk? What would you like me to talk about?" I said, "I'd like you to talk about how you feel about singing in silence." And she was like, "Oh." but it's her perspective as a performer who I know has deeply traveled in exploring silence in a kind of a meditative capacity. And then we have Robin Bowman, who is a very distinguished musician who, I don't think he'll mind me saying, I think, retired, at 60. He could have stayed longer at a really top job in London in a music college. And he left to go to a Quaker center in Birmingham to lead the volunteers. Uh, and their kind of main practice is silence. Um, so it seems like it's quite an interesting exploration. And it really feels like, of course, I can help with the musical things and maybe point you in a few ways, but this really feels like your own exploration. Um, and, I'd really love to hear as the weeks go on how that unfolds for you. Um, the final thing I'd like to say, and it's related to what's came before. And this is just a kind of yeah, it's just something that I find curious, to be honest. I come back to my time in Tennessee, it might help put it into perspective. When I was an intern there, uh, they weren't extremely busy. They've got super busy now, their center. And so I kind of was doing all kinds of jobs when they did get a bit busier, like cleaning toilets, cooking, meeting people, helping on the computer, a whole range of jobs. And what was really clear to me that it didn't matter what job I was doing, what was more important was what I brought to each job. And so if I brought my full self and I brought my full commitment to it, it didn't matter. Cleaning toilets, that's just what needed to be done. Cooking a meal under pressure for like 30 people, that's what needed to be done. Working on really specific computer material, that's just what needed to be done. And so the point to bring this up is because I think so often the focus can be on the sound that we're making, the song that we're singing, how well we're doing it, what our experience is of what we're doing, how we're judging it, what other people think. I mean, that's what singing is in a kind of a nutshell, as it's expressed with groups of people in music college or whatnot. But something that isn't as often explored is, what is it that's doing the singing? Where is that coming from? And I'm not suggesting that there's an answer for that, but I'm suggesting that that's a really deep inquiry. And in a sense, rather than using singing just for fun, and not there's anything wrong with that, or like most people, I want to sing for fun, or I want to sing because I want to become a professional, or using singing to get somewhere else. What if it was turned the other way? What if singing was used as a way to explore what it is that we fundamentally are? And I don't in any way plan to answer that or put words to it. I just would like to invite that possibility. And as far as my experience goes, I mean, singing goes up and down. You know, you can get a really good run and then you can get a really difficult run. The benefit of loving something is that you're there for it all. I interviewed John Rudder, the choral composer, last year, and I got to ask him. I only asked him 3 questions. He spoke the rest of the time, but it was very comprehensive. And he mentioned that to me. He said, you know, something along the lines of, you know, you really have to love it because there's good days, but there's also bad days. When you're away from your family, you get bad reviews. Maybe something doesn't sell well. He didn't say that, but he mentioned bad reviews. But the benefit of loving it is that it gets you through that. You're kind of not doing it because of results. Sure, I mean, who doesn't want the results too? But I'm just saying that the journey tends to go up and down. But what we're looking at here specifically is, what is it that's doing the singing? And of course, we can come up with a conceptual answer. I'm doing the singing. Salwan, am doing the singing. But when we look at singing and the act of singing, it's quite curious that whenever this sings well is whenever Salwan's not there, judging the sound or creating the sound, but just committed to the material. You know, there's a teacher I'm working with at the moment, and I had a couple of lessons with her last year, and she said something really interesting to me that caught my attention. She said, whenever people are moved, I mean, like deeply moved by a performance, her instinct, and she's a very experienced singer and teacher, is that it's when the person is deeply connected to their body. She meant like their breathing apparatus and whatnot. And it's not that the person does stuff and like singing on the outside and it gets people in. It's more the other way. They're so connected with themselves that people are drawn in. And yeah, the other thing she said was, it was in a conservatoire environment. She said, you know, everybody's out there trying to maybe get this person to hear their voice or this person to hear their voice, maybe for some, I don't know, accolade or for some confidence. Guilty of all of that, by the way. Um, and she says, but like they have everything that they need here in their body. You know, that's where the sound comes from. And of course, that doesn't deny that a teacher can help you and, you know, help give you the way through. But it still brings forth the question, you know, what is the deepest way that we can connect with ourselves? Even more so, what is it that we're connecting with? And how do we make ourselves available for that? Remember, this isn't a control business. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and then this is going to happen. It's more like I'm going to do what I can, and I'm also going to be available. And so this territory, I feel like Dawn, when he comes to talk specifically about silence, you might find some links with your singing practice. He's quite a skillful teacher, and I think he may, or I don't know, he knows that he's coming to speak on a singing course. He may make some links to artistic expression. So we'll see how that goes. But that's the setting, and that's the format. I really don't have any idea how it's going to go, but that's what I feel called to talk about, and to support. And um, there will be coachings if they're needed, if we think that performance heavily is the way we're going to go. But it seems like the emphasis of this is going to be your personal exploration and how we might support that. And so in the last course for yous who were there, it was really performance intense where you had to sing each week. And that was really fun. Um, and and you know, I felt a lot of my time was trying to help you get the performance as good as possible. Maybe we'll follow shape with that as well. Um, but one thing I want to say is let's back off the pressure of that a little bit. We can still perform every week, no problem. It's probably the best thing to do. But let's not worry so much about how the song sits in our voice or what the high notes like. Why don't we put our attention on what's the deepest way we can sing and what's the deepest way we can support ourselves to do that. And that's not to deny that you have to work hard perhaps and learn material, but let's make singing with from the deepest place that we can be the priority. Okay, I'm done with the talking.